Hey everybody, Shawn Drury here, South Carolina political editor. I'm joined today by Reagan Chase Kelley. He's the comms director for the College Republicans down in the College of Charleston. And I'm also joined by James Smith. He's a Democrat, vocal Democrat for down at the College of Charleston. Worked on the Elizabeth Colbert Bush campaign in the spring. And they're joining me today because we're going to talk about the controversy that's cropped up in the past week or so regarding a book on the freshman reading list from an author by the name of Alison Bechtel, which has caused a bit of controversy. A group called Palmetto Family, I believe. Reagan, correct me if I get it wrong, please.
I believe it's Palmetto Family Council.
The Palmetto Family Council has said this book, which is basically a graphic memoir of Bechtel's time growing up in western Pennsylvania, was really not, which recounts her challenges coming to the realization that she's gay, and some pretty adult themes, as her father, she thinks, committed suicide. It wasn't equivocally proven, but the author certainly feels that way. Some really challenging themes, and the Palmetto Family Council kind of said, hey, this shouldn't be being taught and paid for by tax dollars and taught in a public school. So Reagan, I mean, as a Republican, give me your thoughts here. Where are you at with this?
Well, I think the Palmetto Family Council is actually kind of leaning towards a good thought there. Obviously there are some very graphic details, some things that are very controversial in the book, talking about her growing up, like you said, about the suicide of her father, talking about the way and she discovered how she became a lesbian and what her thoughts were and going forward with that. And it's one of those things, the meat of the book, there may be some good points to it, but it is extremely controversial. There's some points in there that may not be appropriate for freshmen coming in, especially their first experience into a liberal college like the College of Charleston and other, and I agree with the Palmetto Family Council as well. It's a, from a public funded university, this type of book and this content, forcing it and making it a required reading for freshmen coming in, I just don't think it's necessarily the smartest decision.
All right, James, I see you're shaking your head already there. I mean, what's your take on this? It's a public university. We're talking about public dollars here. Mm-hmm. Is this something that freshmen should be reading?
Well, first, we've got to get the facts straight. First, the book is not required by any class, or the college for that matter. As you know, Reagan, coming in your freshman year, I don't know what book you had. I had a book that was about a guy who started an orphanage out in Iraq, and it wasn't required at all. It doesn't require for any class. So I think it's the bigger picture here is the Palmetto family might be upset about whether or not we're spending tax dollars to give the book to the college kids, and what's it age appropriate. The bigger question is, and I like the question you had on the agenda, Shawn, was if it's not age appropriate for an 18-year-old to read, somebody who's a legal adult in the United States, somebody who's not going to be under his parents' watch. I mean, who is it legal for? And the bigger issue is we're separating out. Are they upset because the book has homosexual themes in it, or the life about this woman's life, or is she upset because there are adult themes in it? And either of those stands, I don't think Palmetto Family or whatever they're called, they don't really have a case to make here because one, public dollars, they can't promote a religious point of view, and it'd be a religious point of view to say that homosexuals are not real or that they're some kind of made-up lifestyle. And two, if there are adult themes in it, they may have disagreements with those themes, but like I said before, the book isn't required for these kids to read, and more than if you're a Christian or if you're somebody who believes in the traditional values that the Republican Party believes in, you don't have to read the book, and you receive no punishment for it at all.
Yeah, I mean, let's make this point. It's very important. Orrin Smith, I believe, that's the president of the Palmetto Family Council's name. He said he doesn't think the book should be banned, or we're not in gather around the bonfire and throw the thing in the fire. He's not saying that at all. He's just saying he didn't feel like it was appropriate to be paid for, and the themes that are addressed. So unpack that for me, Reagan. Like of these two, I mean, if you have to pick one, where are you going to plant your flag here?
Well, I don't think it's more the homosexuality content of it. I know some people have raised those questions, but I don't think that's the main head of it. I think it's more the adult themes in nature. There's some very graphic details in there. There's some very graphic images that Orrin Smith said it himself. If this was a magazine, would it really be sold to a minor at a convenience store, and I don't think it would be either. Some of the stuff in there, and not everyone coming in as a freshman. I was 17 when I entered the College of Charleston as a freshman. Not everyone is of the age of 18. Some start earlier. So legally, if I wouldn't be able to purchase it at a convenience store, but it's yet a required reading for a freshman coming in, and there was obviously some disagreement there whether it's required reading or not. From my understanding, it is. According to the Post and Courier article originally, right. It said it was required reading.
Yeah, that's my understanding too. I mean, if the college went through the trouble of buying 4,000 copies, I have to assume that it's required reading. Okay. But I mean, I think that's an interesting point now that I want to also just remind. The book is not a traditional book. It's a graphic memoir. So some of the themes that are being discussed are visually represented. So I mean, do you think that makes a difference, James? It makes it this isn't somebody recounting a very difficult time growing up. Don't you think the visual element might change things a little more, or no?
Well, no, two things. One, the kids are making a choice to come to this college. That's one thing, and they should know going in, this is a liberal arts college that they're choosing to go to. If they disagree with how a public university is going to spend their dollars, they can more than willing go any of the other Christian or other universities, more conservative, such as Clemson. Two, at the same time, if you want to talk about books that are required reading that the school pays for, think about what they allow Wells Fargo and all these other at the Randian Institute to pay at the School of Business. I was required to read Atlas Shrugged for a class with which I got a grade and had to write a paper on. And I certainly disagree with some of the elements of that, which included heavy themes towards a particular point of view, in which there was no other type of view that was brought forth, and that was paid for by dollars. At the same time, there are religious classes right now at the college that promote, or maybe not promote, but require you to read particular elements of a religion that will have a sexual nature to it, or they might teach you about Christianity to somebody who may not have any interest in that at all, and it is required. And many times the school does pay for that. So if
let me put it to you guys. I mean, this is the slippery slope here. And certainly it's not like the Palmetto Family Council is the first group to object to something being presented in a public university or university. Where do we draw the line between what should be taught and who should decide when we're talking about public dollars? I mean, according to the article in the Post and Courier, over $50,000 is going to be spent between bringing Allison Bechtel to the University in October and buying the book. I mean, this has always been a discussion in our culture about what should be taught at a university. I mean, is this always a conversation we're going to have, Reagan?
Well, let me address that if I can. I mean, you look at it now, and local graduation rates, as a general rule, are just awful in South Carolina. I think we're 47th out of 50, and this is with the tax dollars going towards a book like this. And it's not a religious. This is not a religious class. This is an English lit class. So talking of these homosexual and other adult themes in this book aren't necessarily going to be talked about in a philosophy or religious class. This is an English lit class. And I'm a student. And we just had a 4% tuition increase at the College of Charleston. So this is a spending increase on top of a tuition increase for a controversial book. Especially one that.
Let me just interrupt you there, Reagan. That's a great point. So you can obviously link the tuition increase to somebody can say, "Wait, you guys raised my bill, so you guys raised my tuition. Now you're going to make me read this book." I mean, you think there's something to that?
Well, yeah, I do actually, and I think, on top of that, you think about even more so than the book itself. I think first off, the solution to the problem is to allow another book to be read, an alternative book to be read if the person doesn't want to read that book. But on top of that, they're going to fly the author down there for $13,000. $13,000 of taxpayers' money to fly this person down here. If someone if the university required someone to read the homosexual agenda and flew that author down here, imagine the controversy that would arise, and especially for $13,000 to fly that person down here. I have a big problem, spending in the wake of a tuition increase, especially when the $13,000 could go to something like a scholarship for someone who wouldn't be able to do it, and help middle class education, not.
Yeah, how about it, James? Why not just if someone's not happy with having to read this book, why not just let them choose another book?
They don't have to read the book. I promise you, if a child comes up to the College of Charleston says, I have strong disagreements with this book, you are going to make me read this for a grade, the college will not punish them one bit. I can guarantee it. Point two, Reagan says this now about this author, but I guarantee you if they were flying down Rand Paul down here, he would have no problem with him speaking or any book that he's written, and he doesn't believe in, he would vote for the Civil Rights Act. I think it's just, you know, it's a double standard to a certain extent with Republicans, or especially this group when it comes to stuff like this. They're upset about particular parts of the book that have to deal with homosexuals, and I understand why. It's part of their mission. And they're part of the book that may be adult themes, but like I said before, no one is forcing these kids to come to the College of Charleston. No one's forcing these kids to read this book. If they are required, you're saying that they should have an outlet. I believe they do. I believe the college would not force some kid to read this book and then for a grade and then somehow flunk him or punish him for that. I think this is just I think the Palmetto is looking for a controversy and stoking one up just for the sake of doing so. And I don't think it's a waste of taxpayer dollars either, because like I said before, if you go to the school business, they're flying in every single year 5 or 6 speakers, not one, 5 or 6 speakers that are of very far-right, libertarian-leaning economic philosophies and social philosophies for their Adam Smith Week and everything else. And that's paid for by my tuition dollars. It's paid for by state-funded dollars. And there's many of the school who would disagree with that, but they allow that to happen anyways because it's a liberal arts school, and they allowed all different types of points of views. And it's important that kind of education.
I can tell you want to respond, but I mean, let me just, before you do, let me just ask you, is this presenting, James is talking about, all kinds of authors and all kinds of speakers are invited to the university. Is this part of presenting an entire view?
I can promise you that they are not flying Rand Paul down here on my tuition dollars. They ain't going to do that. They wouldn't fly, like I said, they wouldn't fly the author of the homosexual agenda down here. And I remember, a familiar story, a representative in the upstate who flew someone down here on the state plane to lobby against or lobby for Obama nullification. And people were crazy. They were so upset about it, and it was half the price. It was $6,000, not $13,000. And flying people in for the business school, that's the school of business. If they want to fly someone down to talk about religious class, that's the school of religion. This is English lit. Has nothing to do with the graphic themes in this book, and especially forcing it down. And it is a required reading. I read the most recent that I heard from the provost of the university says that it was a required reading, and that they think it's important for them to talk about the sexuality and nature and the philosophy and growing up of this author, Alison Bechtel. So I haven't seen anything otherwise that, unless Shawn can correct me, that hasn't said anything about it being a required reading.
Well, let me come back to you, Reagan. I mean, if it's not age appropriate for a college freshman, when is it going to be age appropriate?
Well, I don't think it's a question really of the appropriateness of it, of whether it's a fiscally responsible thing to do from the university.
Okay.
It depends. It could be a 40-year-old who says it's not appropriate for me, and there could be a 16-year-old who thinks her parents think it's appropriate for them. I think you're getting down a slippery slope when you talk about it. I mean, right. It's just one of those things that it's not fiscally responsible of the university to fly someone down here for $13,000.
So James, I mean, what do you think? I mean, is this worth fighting for here? I mean, the book is gonna be not gonna be changed. The provost has said we're sticking by the plan to have the book. Alison Bechtel's still coming down. I mean, is this worth making a fight over, or picking a fight over, or what?
Sorry, somebody just came in. I have no. It's worth fighting for. So I'm on a Google chat. Sorry. Sorry about that. I think it is worth fighting for a couple of reasons. One, it's exactly in the mission statement of the College of Charleston, exactly what they're doing right here. They're presenting all viewpoints. Now, we can bicker all day long about what's required and what's not required. I'm telling you right now that the hard stance at the college is that they would be certainly flexible with students who had problems with reading this book, or parents who would have problems reading this book. I think it's important to fight for, because at the college there are tons and tons of students who walk into college and don't understand many of these issues, and they particularly don't understand how many homosexuals there are at the college. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we're fighting about right now that's just maybe getting overlooked. But the Palmetto family has problems with the book, whether it be graphic or about the homosexual agenda or this and that. But it's important for these kids to understand the unique different types of viewpoints that they're going to experience at the college from the different people alone that are going to be there. So I don't understand what book Reagan would want them to read. I mean, I'm sure he wouldn't have a problem with Atlas Shrugged. Maybe he wouldn't have a problem with another book that, has I don't know what kind of book they would want them to require to read, or what book they would be happy with. But no one's always going to be happy. Well,
Okay,
you
Reagan,
could
let me-
argue
okay.
this is a piece of English literature, though.
Reagan, let me give you the last word here. I know there was some talk about some action and maybe taking a stand here. What's next for you guys?
Well, I mean, we're going to have to, as far as the group goes, as far as college Republicans, we're going to have to discuss this with them. I think this is more the opportunity, and like Orrin Smith said, I mean, Orrin's not out to start burning the book, and we're not going to, set the campus on fire, and we're not going to start rioting. That's not the purpose of it. But I think it's appropriate to open up the response and make a discussion out of it and talk about the double standard. James was talking about the double standard. I think it's quite the opposite. The double standard from the left side, like you said, if you flew Paul down here, people would be losing their minds. I mean, if they required someone to read the Bible for an English literary class, people would lose their minds. If they flew on the tuition for Todd Aiken, people would lose their minds.
Hold on, James. Let him finish.
Okay.
And I think it's more so, and it's not about the content. It's not the Republicans bashing the gays. I know that's great DC talking points, and that's what James wants to hit on, but it's not about that. It's about the fact that my tuition was just raised 4%. And now that we're going to be spending $13,000 to fly a controversial author down here, when we could do something like this. Google Plus is free. We could do a Google Hangout session if they want to for the English system. There's no reason for them to fly $13,000 this author down here to sign a copy of their book. I don't have much more to say than that. I just think it's an improper use of tax dollars and tuition dollars, and putting it on the state credit card is not the way to do this.
Just a final note, the author is scheduled to be there October 24th. We did publish an interview with her in Patch in the Low Country sites earlier today. I have a feeling we haven't heard the last of this. Guys, thanks for being gentlemanly and civil and taking time out of your Monday. Take care.
Thanks, Shawn. Thanks, James.
Thanks, guys.